But I mean, I suppose you could turn around and say that that's actually not a terrible window if and only if Kulusevski and Madison weren't injured. I feel like because of that fact, we're panicking even more. I know we need more players in. I understand that. I really do. But at the same time, if you look at what we have brought in, it's not terrible. And again, I'm not advocating for Levy here at all. I just think we did plug two major gaps. But as for rivals, what they're doing at the minute, Luke, it's not even rivals, mate. Look at Sunderland, 160 million spent, 160 million, and they've just come into the league. It don't make no sense, but yeah, I mean, you'd like to think with our revenue stream, we'd be able to keep up with the top six. Like your Villas and all that. To me, boys, it doesn't make a shred of sense that we can't. I mean, yeah, it blows my mind.
I know what you're saying in terms of the level of player. 100%, I completely agree. But what you need to look at it as a whole. So I don't think anyone, like for instance, for me, this window's like 4, maybe 5 because of injuries and things like that. But that doesn't mean that the signings are not good enough. It just means that there's not enough, or it's in places that do you know what I mean? So it's not that I don't think anyone's doing down the level of the signing. I know there has been I don't know why, but there's been quite a lot of, I think it's emotional thing about Takai and kind of over the top about him. And it's like, it's 5 million quid. Like if this was a 25 million pound signing, then yeah, maybe you could sit there and be like, why have we done that? But he's just a kid. Tell is obviously slightly different, but the other two, they've been brought in. They're a good, solid players that are improved the 11. But overall, we need so much more, especially when you look at the kind of attacking options. And as it's already been mentioned a couple of times, is that 1 injury, 2 injuries, and Palhinha did get a few injuries last year. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that Spurs pick up more injuries. Solanke didn't miss a game all Premier League season when he played for Bournemouth. In his second game for Spurs, he's injured. So it's like we've got to expect this. So therefore, we need to make sure we put ourselves in a situation.
But at the same time, Luke,
was
we not told all season that Ange was the reason for a lot of those injuries? So we would expect that the injuries. we was both told, because I was Ange at one point as well. And the one thing that we were constantly told was that Ange was the issue. So I would expect that with that being in mind, that there's the injury issues drop at least 50%. Like we shouldn't have nowhere near as many injuries as we had last year. And even with that in mind, there was so many teams that had more injuries than us last year and still managed to cope. We could just sit there and say that and acknowledge, the bad coaching and so on. But that's another point. When you talk about how far we are behind our rivals, we are extremely far behind our rivals. Like when you talk about the quality of the first 11, yes, we could probably beat a lot of teams in a one-off game. But it's the performance across the season where a lot of us are going to worry, because we know that with the players we've got, how consistently do they perform? A lot of them under a new manager have looked good for 10 or so games and then flail off. So for me, the worry starts to come in match week 15, is if these players are still going to perform the same way they're performing at this moment in time. You can look at Chelsea's transfer window. It's as much as, some people can laugh at the players they've got. They've signed literally about 6 attackers. So they've put themselves in a position where they're not going to have the same attacking issue as last year. They've solved, if they haven't solved the problem, they've more than tried to. We had an attacking problem last year, and we've signed 1 attacker at this point. So that already can tell you how far behind we are from our rivals, because Arsenal have gone out there, got the striker that they needed. We can already see how much goals they're going to get. You've got Manchester City, who... yeah, they've signed a lot of new attackers, but the quality, Danny spoke about us going for quantity. The quality of the players from City are just different level. Different.
Yeah.
So we can't even compete with that. And then obviously Liverpool's Liverpool. We don't even want to talk about Liverpool because they're so far ahead of us, yeah. So when you try to gauge the teams that we actually are in and around squad-wise, I can even look around and say, if Newcastle get Volta-Maida, a very good player, he's going to be a dangerous signing for them. And I'm not being funny, their first 11 is already so strong that Eddie Howe's a good manager. They're going to figure things out. That's the team we need to worry about. Then you can look at Villa. Villa haven't started off the season great. And I'd probably say that their window's been a bit poor. But Nottingham Forest are creeping up. I know European football could, it's probably going to affect them, but they made very good signings. They're still out there in the window making more signings. I think generally the issue for us is the lack of depth that we have, and that we're going to have to rely on a lot of players playing 2 games a week. And that's where my issue is, really.
Which is a crazy point when you consider that for the last 3 transfer windows, all we've been doing is buying squad players. and now we're sitting here saying that the squad isn't good enough. Like, it just goes to prove, and someone put it in the chat just now, it's not just about going to spend big money, because Man United have done that. It's not really, doesn't seem to be working out for them just yet. So I think that's part of the key here, is that our recruitment for a long time has just not been good enough. And as I said, I've been saying it for a while, that the free transfer windows, when you only get one player through the door that's supposed to come in and improve that 11, then we're already behind. Before the season's even kicked off, we was already behind last year. And then now everyone else has gone in. How many windows is there where clubs make 3-4 first team, like first 11 signings, and at this one season when we need to really kick on, everyone goes out, and Liverpool go to get a title winning team and get 6 first team players? It's unprecedented this summer.
But for me, that's why I have a huge problem with this summer transfer window. When everyone else was using the small window at the start to make marquee signings, we were pissing about sacking the manager and deciding who we want to bring in. Then for another week, we were deciding what coaching staff we wanted to bring in from Brentford and what we were going to allow Frank to have, and then we used the excuse of we need to let him sit back, assess the squad, even though when they interviewed Frank, he would have told them exactly where he needs strengthening in the first place and stuff like that. So I don't buy that. And it's just been one big delay this summer transfer window. We finished 17th in the league last season. Now, don't get me wrong. I think we'll finish a lot higher this season. I think, look, Frank, to be fair, he's come in, he's steadied the ship defensively. He's bringing in Paulini, was absolutely huge in that midfield, bringing in that presence and having that ball winner. We've got a good solid base to work off. So, and also I'd argue, bar some of the top teams that we're trying to chase, I think a lot of the other Premier League teams have been picked off of their star quality, and I think that will also work in our favour this year. Like, so Wolves don't have Cunha to rely on anymore, and Brighton don't have João Pedro to rely on anymore and stuff like that. So teams that maybe finished above us last season, they've all been picked off, so that's worked out in our favour. But that will work out in our favour because what other clubs have done, not what we have done. Look, don't get me wrong, the 2 signings we've made, Kudus and Paulinho, absolutely brilliant signings. But the reality is, why can't we deliver these most summers then? Most other top teams do, but, these are very few and far in between. And coming into this summer, we needed 4 or 5 quality signings walking in. So, and you bring in signings that walk into your first team, automatically the players in your first team then become your backup, and that's how you build your squad depth. But what we do is, like, for instance, we can say, I don't want to hammer on the signing of Takai. At the end of the day, when we've lost deals because of 5 million in the past, 5 million is absolutely everything to Tottenham fans, and we shouldn't be pissing that money about. We were sitting there, trying to throw in different clauses for the Eze deal. I mean, that 5 million, you could have just added on, sweet at Palace, there you are, we'll pay above the odds. Let's get this deal done nicely. We didn't. We lost out on Eze because we're haggling all the time. Morgan Gibbs-White, again, lost out. Daniel Levy is being levied and being played at his own games by other chairmen that he's took advantage of in the Premier League. And now it's coming back to bite him. And at the end of the day, we're sitting here now in a position that no one wants to be in, where we are sitting here with not a lot of quality left on the market that's going to walk in and impact this first team. And we're out there still punting around trying to see what we can get over the line. It's absolutely ridiculous. There was a massive urgency after finishing 17th last season to really up the quality of this squad, and they've brought in Frank. And look, I had my issues with Frank coming in, but given evidence, I'm warming to the guy and I'm warming to what I'm seeing. But at the end of the day, I've always said this, I don't believe Tottenham hire bad managers. I think Tottenham hire good managers, but we never do enough in the transfer market to really help them kick on and go and win games consecutively and consistently. And that's where a lot of these managers end up falling by the wayside because of what we don't do in the summer. Yeah, we brought in Kudus and Paulinho. We still haven't sorted out. All we've done this season is move the problem of Brennan Johnson from the right to the left. So we still have that problem. We're still sitting here waiting for a number 10. And it's clear Frank told him he wants a number 10 because we've tried to bring in Eze and Morgan Gibbs-White this summer. We're still sitting here waiting for another fullback to come in so we can have 4 fullbacks to pick from and not just 3. It's an absolute shambles of a window for me, let alone the players we haven't got rid of that we've been trying to sell. It's been an absolute shambolic window, in my opinion, in terms of ambition. You got to remember, this guy came out in an interview and said, I want to win the Premier League and I want to win the Champions League. Does this window stink of ambition? I'm sorry. It may not work out for Man United, but they've shown more ambition to try and fix their problems this summer than what we have. And at the end of the day, what you're seeing is all these other clubs, yeah, we've signed 2 and we can sit here and rant and rave about it. Chelsea have signed 4 or 5. Liverpool have signed 4 or 5. Man City have signed 4 or 5. quality players, and they're just upping the level and bridging that gap even further. It's been an absolute shambolic window in terms of, forget about other teams, but in terms of what Tottenham Hotspur needed to do. And once again, we'll put Frank in a position where he'll end up getting 2 fullbacks injured, and he's going to have to get a centre-back to try and play out there, or a CDM to try and play out there, and it'll come back and bite us. And I'm absolutely fed up with it. I'm sick of it. The transfer windows are shambolic. Like all summer long, we've had about 99 names linked to Tottenham Hotspur, and we've got 2 in the door. It's absolutely shambolic.
The only thing I would say, the only thing I would say about the Takaya signing, I don't think that we missed out because we spent that 5 million on Takaya. I think that if we didn't spend that 5 million on Takaya, we still would have been arguing over the same pennies. So I don't think it's necessarily the money that's been spent. I think it's more that is the way that we seem to operate. Is that if it strikes me that if we went, do you know what, we fancy this player, we think he's worth 60, and we went to the club and they went 55. I have a feeling we go 50 instead of just going, actually we value him at that. And so. I know what you're saying, but I also think that we have sat there and in the past gone, how the hell have Brighton gone and got Matoma? Where the hell has he come from? And then we go and it's just ironic that they are that they're both from Asia. But
I get what you're saying, but that's only going to bring Brighton so far. That's only going to stabilize them where they are. In order for them to really kick on and compete, which is what we want to do as Tottenham fans, we don't want to be Brighton. We want to go and compete. They're going to have to start upping the quality of their signings. Yeah. And so that's brought them so far. But at the end of the day, we should be in the window for players that are coming into game change, but also signings for the future. But the problem is, you go back to last summer, for instance, we signed more players for the future and brought in one for the here and now. And that's where the problem lies. We take too many gambles and too many punts.